Okay. Ferociously competitive right here. In a moment, something you might not know. If you own a vehicle with less than 200,000 miles and have an auto warranty about to expire or have no warranty at all, listen up. Car Shield has a low-cost month-to-month vehicle protection plan that's now available to the public. Save on out-of-pocket expenses on future auto repairs. So please call Car Shield now to find out how you can pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. 800-925-7584 for a free quote. This protection plan is at an all-time low in price. Drivers who activate the vehicle protection today will also receive free roadside assistance, free towing, and car rental options at no additional cost. So please call for your free quote, 800-925-7584, 800-925-7584. Hey, what do you have to lose? 800-925-7584.
Missouri has been hijacked by the crooks in Jefferson City. Career politician rhinos sell us out every chance they get. We need real conservative Bill Eigel. Eigel's plan: ban China from owning 1 inch of Missouri land, end personal property tax, and deport every single illegal immigrant in Missouri. Listen to conservative Bill Eigel.
We'll round up illegal immigrants and get rid of them, period. We'll ban Chinese ownership of our land and take back everything they stole. And we'll go by how God made us, not some stupid woke pronouns. They'll call us racist, sexist, God knows what else. And that's how we'll know we're winning.
Conservative Bill Eigel. He'll take on the woke mob, send illegals back where they came from, and stop the Jeff City crooks hijacking Missouri. Conservative Bill Eigel for governor. Believe in Life and Liberty PAC paid for and is responsible for the content of this communication. Not authorized by the candidate or candidates committee. www.billpac.com.
Now the O'Reilly Update brings you something you might not know. In 1975, Congress voted to restore U.S. citizenship to the general of the Confederate Army during the Civil War. Though the leader of an armed rebellion, the man had become an enduring icon for some Americans. Here is the story of Robert E. Lee. Born 1807 in rural Virginia, Lee's father was a hero of the American Revolution, but then the guy left the family, moved to the West Indies, so Robert had to work to keep his family out of poverty as a young boy. In 1825, Lee entered the U.S. Military Academy, graduated second in his class. 10 years later, he married his wife, Mary, the great-granddaughter of Martha Washington. Robert E. Lee first saw combat in the Mexican-American War. At the onset of the Civil War, President Lincoln offered Lee command of the U.S. Army, but Lee declined. He wanted to fight for his home state, Virginia. Lee resigned from the Union military on April 20th, 1861, assuming command of the rebel forces. He surrendered to General U.S. Grant at Appomattox Courthouse 4 years later. After the war, Robert E. Lee signed an oath of loyalty to the United States and petitioned to have his citizenship restored. His application was never processed by the Secretary of State, who kept the paperwork as a souvenir. In 1970, an archivist found Lee's long-lost oath. That discovery helped set in motion a 5-year effort to restore citizenship to the general who died in 1870. On July 22, 1975, Congress voted to officially restore Robert E. Lee's citizenship. On August 5th, President Gerald Ford signed the legislation. That event took place at the general's former mansion in Arlington, Virginia. His great-great-grandson, Robert E. Lee V, was in attendance. Said President Ford, quote, "The general's character for reconciliation after the war is an example to succeeding generations to which every American can take pride." Back after this. Are you feeling the impact of recent timeshare industry changes? Now more than ever, the costs of timeshare ownership far outweigh the benefits. My friends at Lone Star Transfer are the only company I trust to help you get out. Our listeners' positive feedback demonstrates why I've supported the company for years. For more than a decade, they have helped over 20,000 owners get out of the timeshare. Their exclusive options can help you get out faster and easier, more than any other option in the country. They are the only company that will give you a written guarantee and release you from your timeshare in a specific time frame. With an A+ rating at the Better Business Bureau, thousands of 5-star reviews, customer service is their top priority. For free consultation and a guaranteed solution, please call 855-551-7066. That's 855-551-7066, or go to LoneStarTransfer.com. Thank you for listening to the O'Reilly Update. I am Bill O'Reilly. No spin, just facts, and always looking out for you.
News, analysis, opinion. News Talk STL. KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Belfast, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL.
Breaking news this hour from townhall.com. I'm Keith Peters reporting. Former NRA Chief Wayne LaPierre testified Monday at the group's trial in New York.
Wayne LaPierre told a New York judge the appointment of an independent monitor to oversee the gun rights group's finances would be equivalent to putting a knife straight through the heart of the organization and twisting it. LaPierre's forceful opposition to the oversight mechanism came on the final day of arguments in the second phase of a civil case that the New York Attorney General brought against the NRA. In February, a jury found LaPierre and another deputy liable for misspending millions of dollars. This second phase of the proceeding is a bench trial. There's no jury, just a judge who hands down the verdict. Julie Walker, New York.
The judge in the trial has since banned LaPierre from holding a paid position in the NRA for 10 years. House Speaker Mike Johnson blasted the opening ceremonies of the Olympics for mocking the Last Supper with a recreation that featured performers in drag.
On Saturday, Speaker Johnson wrote in a post on the social platform X, quote, "Last night's mockery of the Last Supper was shocking and insulting to Christian people around the world who watched the opening ceremony of the Olympic Games. The opening ceremonies in Paris included a group of performers, some of them in drag, in a scene that appeared to resemble the Leonardo da Vinci painting of the Last Supper. On Sunday, the artistic director for the ceremony said that the scene was not meant to resemble the Last Supper, but a scene based on the Greek god Dionysus. Television personality Piers Morgan asked on a post on X whether the Olympics would, quote, have mocked any other religion like this. Bernie Bennett reporting.
Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro has been formally declared the winner of his country's disputed presidential election. On Wall Street, the Dow down by 49 points, the Nasdaq rose 12, the S&P 500 advanced 4. More on these stories at townhall.com.
They're Trump's most diehard fans in the front row at every Trump rally.
You had to love the United States of America. You had to support Mr. Donald Trump's re-election.
Trump's Front Row Shows is the new 2-part documentary offering the first inside look at the men and women standing shoulder to shoulder with Trump in the greatest political movement in American history.
The kind of basis for all the rallies, there's like dead fans.
Like-minded people following their hero all around the country, exhausting their bank accounts, camping out for days in the freezing cold and scorching heat to support Trump's re-election and make America great again.
The Front Row Joes are very successful, incredible people.
Trump's Front Row Joes, from executive producer Sean Spicer, former White House press secretary and communications director for President Donald J. Trump.
Friendships I've made over the years as a Front Row Joe, it's probably the best part of it.
Don't miss Trump's Front Row Joes. Watch it now. Go to salemnow.com. Salem Now.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. First Alert weather days have been issued due to intense heat and humidity. We'll also have to monitor for a low chance, but a chance for some strong storms to develop. Tuesday morning, we'll wake up to 80. We'll have a high of 98 with a heat index of 110. 20% chance afternoon, evening to see some storms. But again, even though it's a low chance, it could be strong if they develop. A low of 80 Wednesday morning, a high of 99, a heat index around 110 to 112 in the afternoon. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Stifel, serving investors for over 130 years. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Attention voters. The truth about Phil Cristofanelli may surprise you.
As state representative, Phil was endorsed by Promo, a Democrat-led LGBTQIA+ organization with extreme views.
Promo pushes for sex changes for kids, males and girls sports and bathrooms, and teaching gender confusion in schools.
Phil's record speaks for itself.
He voted to allow boys and girls sports.
And pushed to teach sexual orientation and gender identity in public schools.
Is this the leadership we want? Think carefully when you vote.
Paid for by Leadership for America PAC, John Royal, Treasurer.
Attention thrill seekers and fun lovers. Did you know the Midwest's largest wooden roller rink is right here in Missouri? Welcome to Piccadilly Palace, your ultimate family entertainment destination. Glide across our massive skating floor, conquer arcade challenges, put your way through mini golf, and dive into cutting-edge virtual reality experiences. And coming soon, a relaxing bar and grill patio, state-of-the-art golf simulators, and heart-pounding 2-story go-kart racing next to East Central College in Union, Missouri. Plan your visit now at PiccadillyPalace.com. That's PiccadillyPalace.com.
Whether at home or at work, you're mobile. So when you're mobile, stay mobile. Keep St. Louis's home for conservative talk with you wherever you go. Download the News Talk STL app in the App Store or at newstalkstl.com. Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
The more you remove voting from Election Day, the more opportunity you're offering for people to commit fraud.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
I think the Democrats are so short-sighted in this tactic they have now to just cheat at any cost to win elections.
You're a lying dog-faced pony soldier. You said you were, but now you got to be honest. I'm going to be honest with you.
What are we doing wrong here? As a former leader in the House, I think you can put your finger on it. It's called leadership. We don't have it.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
Good afternoon. Welcome into the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show here at 101.9 News Talk STL 406 in the PM, July 29th, 2024. Can you believe it? 8 days left until the statewide primary here in the great state of Missouri. And can you believe it? Chris, I, and Joey are in the same room at the same time. I know it hasn't felt like we've been away. We felt like we've been away, but due to the wonders of modern, wonderful remote technology, we have been able to basically be with you for the past 3 weeks without being in the same room. It's good to see you, Chris Arps.
Good seeing you also. You look a little tan. I know I look a little darker from being in the Texas sun, which was extremely hot over the weekend. If anyone is watching on the cam, they're probably like, why is he fumbling around with his headphones? Why did he have them on? You would think I've never done radio before, but I cannot undo my headphones here. So while we do the show here, Tim, I'm going to ask Joey, could he assist me in whatever I've done to my headphones? I can't fix them. I can't turn the headphone around. So
radio professional.
Exactly. All right.
This is the guy that had a messed up bed in his remote video all week long. He didn't make.
I
his
was
bed
wondering,
once.
should I take that out of the picture? I don't know if anyone noticed.
The
left one, man.
I'll filibuster here for just a second here. Yeah, the reason we're acting like we don't know what we're doing is because Chris and I literally haven't been together in the studio at the same time in 3 weeks. We've seen each other. Chris and I were together live out at Denver, Colorado. The headphones are repaired. Those are nice looking headphones. And
all by himself.
Joey, how did we sound? I thought we sounded great. I actually listened to a couple pieces of our podcast, and because I wanted to be like, everybody says we sound like we're in the studio, but do I believe that? It is amazing. The equipment that Jim Modulin has given us, who is the voice of News Talk STL, the guidance that we get from Jeff and Joe, the wonderful production, the amazing production,
Exactly. Don't forget Joey.
Magic of producer Joey V. It does sound like we're all in the same room. It's really amazing.
What I really paid attention to was how good the production was. You know, the buttons were pushed at the right time. Whoever was in charge of that sounded really relaxed,
Yes.
like he was all alone in the studio, just doing whatever he wants. Didn't have to look anyone in the eyes.
You're like a pilot. You don't let your blood
That
pressure
was me,
rise.
yes.
Can we take a couple of minutes and delve into that, Joey? I want to dive into this from your perspective. What is it like being here in the studio by yourself and Tim and I are gone? Do you feel lonely? Do you put like teddy bears in our chairs so that there's people in here? Explain to us, what do you do here?
I don't know if you remember the last place we were at. We were next to a Build-A-Bear. I actually had some custom ones made that look just like you guys. So I bring them in. You're right.
How do you do a teddy bear with a bald head?
Oh my goodness. You just get the clippers out right there. Just shave them. You know, I trained my whole life for this. I don't know. I make it look easy, but no other producer, no offense, young Ethan, you couldn't do this. I made it look so easy.
You do.
Just juggling all the music and the sound clips and both of you on different opals, as we call it, the Comrex machine. It was flawless.
It's really amazing. And you know what? I think it adds a lot to the listeners as well, because it allows, most other radio stations, especially the ones here in town, they don't have people that run back and forth all across the country. And Chris and I get to do. We're very blessed. I'm very humbled and appreciative of all the different projects I have that take us hither and yon. And then it's really cool for us to be in these places telling people, hey, I'm with Governor so-and-so, or I'm with State Senator so-and-so, or I'm with, whoever, and famous people like Grover Norquist, Jonathan Williams of ALEC, and others. And there were governors running all over the place out in Denver last week. We had Governor Stitt from Oklahoma. We had Governor Kim Reynolds from Iowa. And so
don't forget my boy now, Texas Governor Rick Perry.
Rick
Come
Perry.
on now.
I saw Rick.
Don't forget Texas.
I was walking out of the conference room. I forgot to tell the story on Friday when I was doing the show when you and Becky were flying back. I walked out of the main plenary session, and I walked past this booth professor. I'm like, wait a minute, that guy looks familiar. I go, hey, it's Rick Perry. I waved at him.
He
smiled.
He did a breakfast meeting, prayer meeting, talking about the group that he is a part of. I can't think. It's Capital something. I'm sure Joey can look that up. It's Capital something with former Governor Rick Perry. But he spoke to us about his faith and how it has transformed him. And he tells a remarkable story. It's a little too long to tell here, but he tells a remarkable story of how he was foretold a vision by a woman who had a gift for that, and it didn't work out initially the way that he felt it should. And it did happen, but in a slightly different way. And it was really strong to talk about his faith. And I got to show him a picture of us that we took in South Carolina during the 2016 presidential campaign. He had endorsed Cruz, and we had done an event on the aircraft carrier there that's in North Carolina. I can't think of which one it is. It's a World War II aircraft carrier.
Which one that is.
He did a military event there, and Rick Perry, Governor Perry, Tim, you've met him a couple of times. One of the most personable, charismatic people you will ever meet in your life. He is the most to me. You meet this guy, and he'll make you feel like he's known you your whole life.
There's a lot of people.
Genuine.
There's a lot of people at that level who have been governors, cabinet secretaries, ambassadors, and they don't have the time of day for you. Rick Perry is the exact opposite. He will stop. He will focus on you, and he will have all the time in the world for you.
He's really sincere.
And as I was going up through elected ranks, I know the different. And look, sometimes people don't even do it on purpose. Some people, by their very nature, they think they got to get to the next person. They look through the person they're talking to. I had people tell me that they're like, "Don't do that. Do like what Rick Perry does. Do like what Peter Kinder used to do." And make people feel special for that 30 seconds you're speaking to him. He does that like a master. He's such the nicest guy.
He's the best.
And a little story about Rick Perry that he told once at an event a long time ago. He has a strong Missouri connection. He used to work in the state of Missouri. He said he used to go through Jefferson County and St. Louis County as a door-to-door Bible salesman.
Wow.
Back in the day.
I can believe that. His faith is very, very strong. Tim, I tell you who is the second most charismatic politician that I've ever met in my life, who focuses on you when you're talking to him and you really feel like you have his attention. It's our 424 guest, Jim Talent.
Yes.
Senator Talent and chairman of the Reagan Institute's National Leadership Council. He be with us at 425, and we have a whole range of topics to talk to him.
As usual.
Exactly. The Olympics, what happened over in Israel, Kamala Harris, there's the elections in Venezuela, excuse me. So we've got a host of things to talk to former Senator Jim Talent at 424.
And as what usually happens, we have this promo that plays throughout the weekend talking about what chaos and crises did. We have to, Joey, we're gonna have to update that to include Kamala Harris now. Now that she's the one running for president, and they've relegated Joe Biden to the geriatric ward in the White House. And we talk about the promo talks about the chaos and crises. What chaos and crises has Joe Biden wrought over the weekend? He's done more. And look, I love, Chris, this reinvention, this revisionist history. As soon as Joe Biden's Joe Biden is still alive and breathing as far as we know. The Democratic Party has already declared him dead and buried. This coronation that they said they were not going to do, Democrats always do the opposite of what they promise. They have absolutely coronated Queen Kamala after they said they wouldn't. And now they're trying to revise history. Chris, I saw this really funny meme over the weekend. The next thing we know, the media is going to argue that Kamala Harris never served in the Biden administration.
Yeah.
And that's basically what they're doing. She apparently, as vice president, Joe Biden's right-hand woman, has zero responsibilities for the fact that we're engaged in more wars than we've ever been engaged in before. The fact that inflation is higher than it's ever been since the 1970s, that people can't put gas in their gas tanks and groceries in their grocery carts, that there is more violent crime raging, that the border is an absolute disaster, the thing that she was supposed to be in charge of. I don't care what they say about her now. They're basically acting, Chris, like this new person named Kamala Harris came down from the heavens to save us all from the orange man who is oh so bad.
Yeah, they're not going to be able to rehabilitate her persona in this quick of a time. She has a two-track problem. One, she has the problem that she is associated with the Biden-Harris campaign and that record, and she has her own record, which we've seen over the last few days. Republican political operatives in the Trump campaign have really gone into one particular issue that they're really focusing in is on crime, her record as the DA, kind of the double positions that she's taken, where at one point she was very pro-police, death penalty. A lot of African Americans were not happy with that record. They also are focusing on illegal immigration, not only the border, but when she was the attorney general, how she was very soft on that in California. So she has a two-pronged problem, and the euphoria is starting to die down a bit, according to, I think it's a CNN poll. After Joe Biden jumped out of the race, her favorability rose up to 43%. They took a poll recently here over the weekend. It's back down to 35%. And also, Tim, Laura Loomer's Twitter, I asked people to go to that. She did a expose showing that all of Kamala Harris's support is AstroTurf. She has documents showing that some of these AstroTurf groups are advertising, saying we'll pay you $1,500 if you do these particular ads, if you tweet out this stuff. It's all AstroTurf, and it's fading away quickly. It hasn't lasted at all.
If I'm sorry to all the liberals out there, but if you don't think that this whole thing wasn't completely orchestrated and concocted behind the scenes, how in the world do you shift $100 million and support all across the nation from all these Democratic operatives? How do you get the news media, the corrupt left-leaning corporate media, to shift so rapidly? They're all saying the same talking points. How do you do all that in basically 48 hours? Unless, as Laura Loomer is arguing, and look, some people think Laura Loomer's crazy, but you know what? She always has the receipts. You know what I mean?
She has the receipts on this. I mean, she's got the screenshots of these companies these companies advertising, saying that we will basically use you for grassroots and we'll pay you, and it's all AstroTurf. Look, I think there is genuine support for Kamala Harris within the Democratic Party in the Black community.
Yes.
The fellow sororities, they absolutely love her. They raised $1.5 billion for her. I think there's support there, and I think among the pro-choice crowd, I think they are excited that she can carry the mantle for abortion in this political cycle. But other than that, I don't think there's really any real excitement for Kamala Harris, and her falling polling numbers show that.
And doesn't this prove the point that all Democrats care about is personality politics, right? And the politics of personality and the politics of identity, right? So there's it's like they suddenly woke up the other day, a week ago, and we're like, Joe Biden is a really old white dude who can't put sentences together anymore. So it's not the policies of him. It's not the message. It's just the messenger.
Yeah.
So all we got to do is get rid of the old dementia-ridden white guy and just flip in the younger, whatever she needs to be, right? A Filipino, African-American, maybe she's Caribbean, whatever, woman.
Yeah.
Now we know what a woman is. All we got to do is flip the person out, And everybody will think that's wonderful. No, your politics, your public policies suck. That's what we really should not like about it. I agree with you. I think the coronation is going to wear thin. I'm hoping the bloom comes off the rose soon, and I'm hoping we can talk about the policies of Joe Biden that Kamala Harris agreed with 110% of the time.
Look, Democrats are trying to spin that now we have Kamala Harris, we have a younger, fresher ticket, we are more energetic now. The basic line that they're covering up, or the basic thing that they're covering up, is everyone knows that Joe Biden has mental competency issues, and there is no way that he could have continued in this campaign. He was opening up huge leads in some of these border states, moderate states. And if Joe Biden continues fading, they were also worried about the racist down ballot and how he would affect that. So, I mean, they can play it like that, but anybody with any bit of common sense knows this was what I always talk about with politicians, and what's their first and foremost goal is not representing the people. It's self-preservation.
Yes, that's exactly right. And so thank goodness we always have Jim Talent on Mondays, because we need him on Mondays because of all the Biden-Harris chaos and calamities that occur over the weekend. I mean, many of these things have been brought to this point because of the failures of the Biden-Harris administration. So as Chris mentioned, we'll talk about Joe Biden's plans to completely dismantle and destroy the Supreme Court. We'll talk about the escalation of violence and war in the Middle East with Hezbollah now getting involved. It looks like more and more in this Israeli-Hamas conflict. We'll talk about the Olympics and what a spectacle that's become. I just want to watch the athletes perform. I don't need all of the woke crap. I purposely, Chris, skipped the opening ceremonies. I just want to watch the events.
And there's been a little controversy. World geopolitical politics has injected itself in the politics. There have been some Muslim athletes who have refused to shake hands with their Israeli counterparts. One example is what do you call it? What do you call it when you do judo?
You're I don't want to get in trouble.
A judoette, or
I don't
what
want to
is
say
it?
something wrong. Well, a judist?
Judas, I don't know, but they are participating in the sport of judo.
There you go.
And the person beat the Israeli, I think, and would not shake his hand.
Oh, that's ridiculous.
Afterwards, and it happened with another event in judo as well. So
what a shame.
You'd expect that. There's a long history of politics being injected in the Olympics. Sadly, my first Olympics that I remember, 1972 Munich Olympics, when the PLO murdered those Israeli athletes in the Olympic Village. And what's really strange about that, Tim, I remember those Olympics. Mark Spitz won 150 gold medals, and it was just phenomenal. But I don't remember at all what happened with the PLO killing those Israeli athletes and holding them hostage. I don't remember that at all.
You and I were too young.
Yeah,
Joey, they made a movie about that, didn't they? Wasn't there a very famous, really popular movie about the Israeli special forces that went in later and got those guys and got those terrorists?
Movie.
Was it? See, I thought it was something on the big screen.
Oh, so was it Munich?
Munich.
Yeah,
it was Munich. It was Munich.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Yes.
Munich, Germany, where the 72 Olympics were.
No, the movie was called Munich.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, right? Wasn't it a movie?
I know that's a movie about the Olympics. And
that's what it is.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
You're always too young to remember 1972
Well, but he's
Olympics.
an aficionado of the silver screen. We're going to talk to Jim Talent about all that. And then, how about that? Red State must listen to the program as well. They wrote an article about this exact discussion that Chris and I just had about Kamala Harris and what people should really be focused on. So we'll talk with Susie more about the big Red State headlines, including that at 5:25. Chris's Corner at 4:45, the Speaker Stump Speech at 5:07, and Larry Connor's USA at 6:05, which we will prepare you for at 5:45.
And let me give you a little hint of Chris's Corner at 4:45. I'm going to talk about the 2024 campaign, the Harris campaign, how it is progressing. And Tim, you mentioned in the segment here, personality politics, how the Democrats, of course, have mastered that. I've got a really, really, really good example of that in Chris's Corner. So that will be at 4:45.
Excellent. We'll also give you a little preview here and there about the upcoming elections. Folks, you got to vote next Tuesday. As I said, that's the only election that matters here in the state of Missouri. All those Republicans who win next Tuesday are going to win in November, so you better select the right one. Some of those races have 7 and 8 people running for them. We'll continue to dive into that. We got lots to get to with Senator Jim Talent. He's next on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL.
Follow us on Rumble at News Talk STL.
No, I'm just getting warmed up.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. First Alert weather days have been issued due to intense heat and humidity. We'll also have to monitor for a low chance, but a chance for some strong storms to develop. Tuesday morning, we'll wake up to 80. We'll have a high of 98 with a heat index of 110. 20% chance afternoon, evening to see some storms. But again, even though it's a low chance, it could be strong if they develop. A low of 80 Wednesday morning, a high of 99, a heat index around 110 to 112 in the afternoon. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
So many ways to listen to News Talk STL. Enable our Alexa skill.
Hello.
Hey, Alexa.
Yes, I'm listening.
Play News Talk STL.
Welcome to News Talk STL, conservative talk radio for St. Louis.
You know, Joey, I'm glad to be back in my local bed after 2 cities and 3 different beds. I'm also able to now use my locally owned and operated independent community bank, Royal Banks of Missouri. You know, I told you I was going to get a little cash out so that I wouldn't have to use the ATM down in Texas. I forgot and got some money out. I had to pay $3. $3. That's like a gallon of gas nowadays. You know, Royal Banks of Missouri, they offer the 17 convenient banking locations throughout St. Louis, St. Charles, across the river in Granite City, Jerseyville, Hannibal, and Rawls County. You know, speaking of those 200 ATMs across the Midwest, they give you free access to your ATM transactions and withdrawals. There's also their convenient interactive teller machines that will connect you with the banker virtually and in real time. Check out my friends. If you are looking for a personal or business bank, Royal Banks of Missouri, the community bank for your community, they're at royalbanksofmo.com.
Loyalty means a lot at Ackerman Toyota. That's why during COVID, Ackerman refused to charge over sticker price, while others did. Ackerman stayed true to their customers, selling at or below manufacturer suggested prices. Ackerman will get you what you want, and the service department has the same spirit. You come first. And thank you for making Ackerman Toyota #1 in 2023. Ackerman Toyota, AckermanToyota.com. Ackerman Toyota for life.
News Talk STL is proud to have Doug Voss of Safe Money Radio as part of our lineup each week. Doug has been a staple on St. Louis radio for many years as one of the leading financial experts in the area. Doug and Safe Money Radio is on 3 times every weekend, but in case you miss anything, you can check it all out at DougVossSafeMoneyRadio.com or call 844-676-SAFE. That's 844-676-7233. Doug Voss is a registered representative. Securities offered through DHL Securities, LLLP. Member FINRA and SIPC.
By now, you've heard Adam Schnelting's false attack ads. Don't buy his lies. Adam Schnelting says he opposes the transgender agenda, but he's trying to conceal the truth. Schnelting has received more than $71,000 from liberal trial lawyers. Those same trial lawyers supporting Schnelting also gave over $100,000 to a liberal group that supports men playing girls' sports, supports men using girls' bathrooms, and even supports gender mutilation surgeries for minors. To make matters worse, Adam Schnelting says he supports our gun rights, but he's received thousands from leading anti-gun lawyers that filed a massive lawsuit against gun makers and gun owners. But that's not all. These liberal lawyers don't just fund Adam Schnelting's campaign, their anti-gun lawsuits, or the transgender movement. They've also been leading funders of Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, and even the Joe Biden-Kamala Harris ticket. Adam Schnelting. With friends like that, conservatives just can't trust him. On August 6th, don't forget Adam Schnelting. He's loved by liberals, and he lies like one too.
Gladius PAC is responsible for the content of this advertising, paid for by Gladius PAC, and is not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at Stifel.com. That's Stifel.com. Follow us on Rumble at News Talk STL.
Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro has now been declared the winner in the country's disputed election, marking his 3rd term. Several foreign governments, including the U.S., held off recognizing the results as election officials delayed releasing the tallies. But the National Electoral Council says Maduro garnered 51% of the vote, and his opponent, retired diplomat Edmundo Gonzalez, 44%. Here's Secretary of State Antony Blinken.
We have serious concerns that the result announced does not reflect the will or the votes of the Venezuelan people.
428. Welcome back to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. You know, Tim, it's been a long time since Venezuela or Nicaragua or any of those Central American states have been in the news. But these elections in Venezuela, of course, have been disputed. And we've got the perfect guest to talk about that and other foreign and domestic matters. He is
former U.S. Senator Jim Talent and chairman of the Reagan Institute.
I'm watching this and just wondering, who's running the show.
This Jim Talent segment is brought to you by Royal Banks of Missouri.
Senator Talent, happy Monday and welcome to the show. I want to ask you about this Venezuela situation. We already have a bad illegal immigration problem with this election in Venezuela that's being disputed. Should the United States be worried about refugees from Venezuela heading north?
Yeah, it's a concern, Chris. I think there's like 8 million Venezuelans who have left because of Maduro to this point. Now, most of them are scattered around South America, but yeah, I mean, given how our border is defended, it wouldn't be very difficult, for them to get across if and when they get here. But yeah, I guess this is the biggest upset in electoral history because Maduro was down by 25% in the polls and similar amounts in the exit polls, but he pulled it out, I guess, huh? And I suppose Blinken's serious concerns are giving Maduro a lot of anxiety right now. No, I mean it's another reverse for our foreign policy and our security, and we're seeing it all over the world.
Senator, speaking of that part of the world, and maybe every part of the world, because it seems like every part of the world wants to come through the United States of America's southern border. Senator, there's a lot of hyperbolic partisan speech being thrown back and forth about what Kamala Harris's role was supposed to be regarding border security. And I don't care what title you want to give her, but you're a guy that doesn't engage in hyperbole. And that's why I think that you're a perfect person to answer this question honestly and fairly. Senator, it's my recollection, and I looked at the AP stories on this. I didn't look at Fox News. I didn't look at MSDNC, as I call it. I looked at the AP, who also, kind of has a little left-leaning bias. But, Senator, it was my recollection, and now that my memory's been refreshed, I'm sure of it, she was supposed to have a significant role in dealing with the crises and chaos at the border. Now, whatever you might want to call her then or now, that's beside the point, isn't it? But, Senator, what is your recollection of that? And how would you say that she's handled that job that I believe Joe Biden gave to her?
Yeah, I distinctly recall that episode because I remember thinking, well, they're setting her up. Biden's people don't like her. And I thought they're setting her up on this. They know that she couldn't do anything even if she wanted to. How long was it before she even visited the border after being given that responsibility?
Over a year, I believe.
Yeah. For purposes of the election, though, Tim, when you're running as having been the vice president in the previous administration, you own the record and the policies of that administration,
exactly.
At least unless you're on record as like having opposed them. You own them. And I think she was given responsibility for the border. She didn't even go down there. And Elizabeth Warren is now saying, well, if we can elect her, there'll be a path to citizenship for everybody who's come here illegally. So I think it's pretty clear where she's coming from. What was the organization GovTrack that said her voting record in the Senate was to the left of Bernie Sanders?
That's correct.
And they erased that as if we're not going to be aware of it. So what we're going to see here is an attempt for some period of time to gaslight the country about Kamala Harris and her record and her abilities. And in the course of doing that, the press gaslights themselves first. I think they're very soon going to reach the point where they actually believe what they're saying. But I think the record's pretty clear.
Speaking with Jim Talent, former U.S. Senator and chairman of the Reagan Institute's National Leadership Council. Senator, I want to talk to you about these horrific attacks that happened in Israel over the weekend by Hezbollah, which killed 12 children. I've had this in my notes here for several weeks that the U.S. intel indicated that a, quote, large-scale confrontation between Israel and Hezbollah is likely to break out in the next several weeks if Jerusalem and Hamas fail to reach a ceasefire deal. And then we have that the administration put out a report stating that they feel that Israel can weaken Hamas from preventing to doing another October 7th, but they couldn't stamp them out. Your thoughts on that and the tragic event that happened over the weekend?
Well, see, that's how they use semantics. They have broken Hamas as an effective fighting force. So sure, you're going to continue to see attacks, by twos and threes, but they're not an effective fighting force anymore, which was what Israel always wanted to do. And the idea that, I really congratulate our intel services telling us that we're likely to see a war between Israel and Hezbollah. First of all, there is a war. I think Hezbollah has launched about 5,000 projectiles of various kinds into Israel. And I think we are going to have a war. And the reason we're going to have a war is because we have not supported Israel. Now, here's what would stop it. Okay. If we positioned a couple of aircraft carriers as we had in last fall in the Eastern Med and sent the message to Iran, that's the party to send it to, that if Hezbollah does not move back behind the Litani, which is where they're supposed to be, which would put them out of range from Israel, at least for the shorter rockets, including this rocket that was just launched in the Golan. If they don't move back behind the Litani and the Israelis attack, the United States Navy will attack southern Lebanon. If we sent that message to Iran, there would not be a war because they would move back behind the Litani. This is a classic example of weakness causing war because our support for Israel has been so inconsistent. It has tempted these people to believe that they can attack and they'll take Israel on alone. So it is strength that creates peace, that deters war. And all over the world, we've seen this. We've been talking about it for years, beginning before the Afghanistan pullout. I think one of the reasons Putin invaded Ukraine is that in the first year of Biden's administration, he rolled over the New START treaty without conditions, which Putin loved. He gave him a summit without conditions, and he waived the sanctions on Nord Stream without conditions. This was his attempt to reach out to Putin, and Putin interpreted it as weakness. So, yeah, we got the biggest war in the Middle East in the last 50 years, and it's about to get bigger. I hope it doesn't happen, and maybe the Israelis can figure out a way, to protect their people without having to attack. But right now, I just don't see it.
And Senator, in addition to, isn't there multiple effects here with this weak leadership? Because in addition to our enemies feeling emboldened and that there's really nobody watching them, there's nobody guarding the cookie jar, and so they can just, dig in willy-nilly. I would imagine, and this is probably more nuanced, but I would imagine our allies are a little concerned as well. They were probably really concerned as they were seeing Joe Biden try to run for re-election in the ruinous state that he's in. But I don't know that they're feeling that much better about a Kamala Harris administration necessarily. Should they be?
Well, can't be. And again, this gets to a basic issue, and we've talked about this before too. If you conduct a foreign policy in a way where you're treating your adversaries as your friends, which is what we've done with Iran, ever since the Obama administration.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Biden unfroze. I wrote a column about this. He unfroze. It's about $15 billion worth of assets from Iran, and he relaxed. He didn't enforce the oil sanctions, so he basically gave the Iranians about $50 billion. I mean, the number depends on exactly on how you calculate it. Well, if you look at countries in the region with whom we have a common interest, like the Gulf states, they think Iran is the greatest threat, and they're looking at us and they're saying, these people don't even know where their interests lie. So how can you do business with somebody like that? So you're absolutely right. I mean, it shakes the confidence of allies, and it shakes the confidence of potential allies. Look, I want Trump to win, and I can work myself up and get partisan, but I've been saying this for years. I mean, it's a crazy policy that Biden has been following in the Middle East. And does anybody think that Kamala Harris is going to do it different? Is she going to say or suggest anything to suggest she's going to do it different? No, I mean, she's been along for the ride. And the other thing with her is, I mean, you remember her explanation of the war in Ukraine?
Oh, my.
Russia and Ukraine are two countries right next to each other, and Russia is a bigger country. And this was now, she was asked to explain it to lay people. So I understand she thought she'd make it very simple. But I mean, does she know how that looks?
Speaking with Jim Talent, former U.S. Senator and chairman of the Reagan Institute's National Leadership Council. Senator, I've said this to you many times, and here on the radio, one of the highlights of my career working for you was picking you up from the airport on Thursdays, taking you home so we could talk politics. I want you to put your political hat here and talk about the Democrats' presumptive new nominee, Kamala Harris. Democrats are throwing around the word Camelot. Similar to Camelot with JFK. Her approval rating did rise a little bit after the Biden withdrawal, but it has dropped back down. We see a lot of enthusiasm in the African-American community and among the pro-abortion community, but do you think she sustains this, and how much of a chance do you give her in this race?
Well, Chris, let's put it this way. I'd much rather be in Trump's position than her position, okay? Because of all the reasons that you just mentioned, and the fact that she owns Biden's record, and she also has to defend her own record. So I mentioned before about a record in the Senate being further to the left than Bernie Sanders. Now, again, they can try and erase it, but I mean, it's out there.
Yeah.
And obviously Trump is going to use that. Trump and Vance are going to use that in this campaign. So, yeah, I like the position the Republicans are in. The Democrats are going to try and create the idea that it's cool to be with her and the celebrities are with her. But we're facing real problems as a country. I mean, we talked about the border, but inflation, I mean, groceries are up, gas is up, and jobs are down, and people are scared. There's a crime surge in the country. They want somebody who they think can do something about it, and Trump has a pretty darn good record in all those things. Not to mention the fact that I absolutely believe people do this. We'll become an energy producing country again, an exporter under Trump. So, like I said, I'd rather be in if you said to me, Jim, you're going to put a bet on this, I'd bet on Trump and the Republicans, but there's a long way to go.
Senator, I got to tell you, that was absolutely brilliant analysis when you said that she has to defend her record and Joe Biden's, because I made the same point in the first segment.
Well, there you go. It's great thinking alike. Tim, did you agree? Do we have a threesome on this?
I think we do. The only no vote may be producer Joey, because he's skeptical of all of us, as he should be. You know, he's one of those younger kids.
Really?
You know,
contrarian, just for radio.
Yes.
People going into your business to be. I mean, I don't want. People going to your business ought to be skeptical of everything politicians say. And Tim, you and I, anyway, we're still a couple of old recovering politicians, aren't we? So
yeah, that is for sure. Senator, before we let you go, I wanted to bring up the fact that I ran into a few people. Chris may have seen them too. Chris and I were out at the. You may remember the ALEC organization, the American Legislative Exchange Council.
Sure.
Yeah, for state legislators. So they had their annual meeting out in Denver last week. We had over 1,500 people there, like 400 or 500 legislators, a bunch of people from the private sector, a bunch of vendors and exhibitors. One of the folks who was participating, Senator, was a couple of the folks from the consulate of Taiwan, some of their economic envoys and stuff. They were the most wonderful people to speak with. They're so gracious. Senator, they are so appreciative of their relationship with the United States of America. But yet I'm sure they're a little concerned about this election too, right? I feel like they're sort of getting in a slow motion car crash or a bus running over them. And I just feel that, putting politics aside, the Trump administration is so much better for the future of Taiwan than the Harris administration would be. What say you?
I completely agree for two reasons. In the first place, I'm mortally certain the Trump administration will continue to do what it started to do in the first 4 years, which is to strengthen military deterrence in Indo-PACOM. That's absolutely essential, and there are ways that we can do it. I mean, everything from putting 180 degrees missile defense on the island of Guam to getting more precision ordnance in theater, like, truck mobile missiles. There's a lot of things that we can do that we're not doing. And that will send a message to Beijing. And the second reason is that I think when Donald Trump tells other countries something, they believe it. And I think Trump will want to deter war in the Indo-Pacific, and he will be focused on doing that. and he was credible as a president. It's why we got the Abraham Accords. In fact, he dragged us into our policy into the 21st century where China was concerned. So if we don't do something, I mean, we are looking in the next 4 years. It's now two commanders of Indo-PACOM ago. It was Admiral Davidson, when he was testifying before the Senate, when he was on the way out, he said he thought the Chinese would move by 2027. It's called the Davidson window. I think that may be a little bit early, but I definitely think we're entering a zone of highest risk in the next administration. And if we get a war there, Tim, it's not going to be one where we're arguing over whether, to send long-range missiles. We're going to be involved in that. And it's not unlikely at all that we could see attacks on the homeland, particularly cyber or attacks on the satellite infrastructure early in that war. So it's time to get serious here. And if you compare the Trump administration and their achievements with Kamala Harris, I think it's pretty clear who'll be serious about it.
Yep. And that, of course, is Jim Talent, former U.S. Senator, chairman of the Reagan Institute's National Leadership Council. Do you have a National Review article that you're working on, sir, that you'd like to promote?
I haven't done one since I did the one on Iran, but you'll be the first to know when I do it.
You remember we were texting or emailing, and you sent me a good treatise on some national security issue. I said that would make a very good National Review article. So I'm just suggesting there. It was very good. And it was long enough, too.
I will consider that. And I will, if you liked it, maybe others will.
Well, that means absolutely nothing. That may turn people off. So maybe we shouldn't do that. Senator, thank you for your time as always and your insight. I'm so glad that we have you with all of these turbulent times in the world. We've got an expert to make sense of it for us.
Kidding.
Thank you, sir.
Chris, you're unusually nice today.
He's been out for a few days.
Yeah. I'm just happy to be home. I've been on the road all week last week, so I'm happy to be home in my own bed. I'm sure you know how that is. Thank you, sir.
Come on. Yep, I do.
Yeah.
Thank you. And coming up at 4:45, 4:47, Chris's Corner will give a little update on the Harris campaign, especially her record. And I'm going to tell you about the personality politics in overdrive here coming up on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show on 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL.
Made in St. Louis for St. Louis. It's News Talk STL.
Don't get brazen with me.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. First Alert weather days have been issued due to intense heat and humidity. We'll also have to monitor for a low chance, but a chance for some strong storms to develop. Tuesday morning, we'll wake up to 80. We'll have a high of 98 with a heat index of 110. 20% chance afternoon, evening to see some storms. But again, even though it's a low chance, they could be strong if they develop. A low of 80 Wednesday morning, a high of 99, a heat index around 110 to 112 in the afternoon. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
On the next,
Larry Connors, USA.
Hans von Spakovsky. Can Biden give all the money he got to Harris? Is that legal?
Larry Connors, USA. Now, weeknights 6 until 8 on News Talk STL.
Did the subject matter of selling your home come up over the weekend or real estate issues in general? Well, I've got your one-stop shop for you. Tim Jones here to tell you all about the Wallner home selling team at Berkshire Hathaway. Rodney and Jen Wallner standing by to assist you and all the important people in your life at 314-810-SOLD. Rodney and Jen Wallner, 314-810-SOLD. Remember that number. The Wallner team will offer you a flexible commission plan when you sit down with them, which is the first thing you're going to do to, kind of establish the parameters. But guess what? It's going to be one that you design for your best needs, not one that they have already prepared for you. No cookie cutter boilerplate models. It will have one very important thing in it that you're going to absolutely want to demand, and you don't have to because it's included. That's a no obligation, no long-term commitment clause. Not happy? Want to move on to somebody else? Maybe you think the Wallners are awesome, but it just suddenly becomes not a good time, and you'll think they're awesome. Not a good time to sell your home. Well, you can walk away, no questions asked. Get that incredible deal, that incredible offer, that incredible contract at 314-810-SOLD. The Wallners are licensed in both Missouri and Illinois, and they're going to guarantee to sell your home. You know why? They have so many approved home buyers ready to roll that they can make that ironclad guarantee to you right now, today, when you call them at 314-810-SOLD. They're a husband and wife team. They're wonderful people. They're heavily invested in the community. They have been with us since pretty much, I think, the very beginning, and huge supporters of everything we do here. So we want you to be huge supporters of them. There's no reason to call anyone else when you got this one-stop shop, this dynamic duo, 2 for the price of 1. How awesome is that? Of Rodney and Jen Wallner. Call them today. You're going to get a free listing consultation when you sit down with them. No pressure at all. They're a top producing real estate team. They're licensed in both Missouri and Illinois, and you can have that wonderful experience as well. 314-810-SOLD. 314-810-SOLD.
On August 6th, your vote will shape our community's future. Introducing Representatives John Simmons and Kyle Marquardt, 2 candidates with starkly different records. John Simmons, a staunch conservative, has consistently cut taxes and defended parents' rights for education choice. He believes in limited government and safeguarding our privacy. Simmons even championed legislation to secure our elections, ensuring integrity at every step. In contrast, Kyle Marquardt voted to expand welfare and increase government spending, and also supported invasive, warrantless government drone searches. When it comes to protecting your rights and hard-earned money, the choice is clear. John Simmons is not just making promises, he's delivered real results. It's time to make your voice heard in the Republican primary. Vote John Simmons, the representative with the proven conservative voting record. Paid for by Nova PAC, James Murphy, Treasurer.
Looking for the ultimate golfing experience in St. Louis? Look no further than Sugar Creek Golf Course. As the most popular golf course in the region, Sugar Creek offers 18 holes of challenging play, designed for all skill levels on rolling country hills with stunning views. But it's not just about the game, it's about the experience. Friendly staff, new Yamaha golf carts, freshly paved cart paths, and renovated clubhouse will make your day on the course a pleasure. Sugar Creek Golf Course, the perfect place to bring your team or friends together. Book your tee time today at sugarcreekgolfcourse.com. That's sugarcreekgolfcourse.com.
Re-elect State Representative Tony Lavasco. Tony Lavasco eliminated licenses for home-based businesses. Tony Lavasco, rated 100% by the American Conservative Union. Tony Lavasco, the only candidate endorsed by Missouri Right to Life and by the NRA. Tony Lavasco, the only choice for small, limited government. On August 6th, vote Liberty. Vote Lavasco.
I'm Tony Lavasco, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Citizens for Lavasco. Dan Rakers, Treasurer.
This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com. Follow Chris Arps on Twitter at Chris_Arps.
This is such a frustrating housing market for the millions of Americans who are on the outside looking in, right? They want to buy, but they just can't. Not with these prices, not with these mortgage rates. And some of them, they're throwing in the towel, they're walking away. So this brand new CNN poll shows that 86% of U.S. renters would like to buy, but they can't. 86%, just 13% say they could afford it, but they're choosing not to. That really speaks to a lot of pessimism here about the American dream, how it feels like it's out of reach. Politically, you can see how this would be an issue for the party in power.
You know, guys, as I was taking my 4 a.m. Uber this morning to Love Field there in Dallas, my Uber driver was a 33-year-old millennial African-American with 2 kids, and she was single. It was by the same father. And, you know, she wanted to talk. I didn't, but I engaged. You know, I just wanted to really sleep to the airport, but I did engage with her. And it was very interesting. You know, you expect a young Black woman would be pro-Kamala, pro-Democrat. She wasn't. She was really, she didn't like Trump. She didn't like the Democrats. She was not particularly fond of Kamala. And I asked her, what do you think you're going to do? And she said, I probably won't vote. Or she was particularly interested in third party. And she had I was trying to tell her, well, you know, if you vote third party, according to the experts, you're helping this person because of this candidate. But it surprised me that that she was not pro-Democrat. She was not pro-Kamala. And I think she is an example of what we hear in politics, is that the young people have really just basically thrown their hands up in the air, and they don't trust Democrats or Republicans, and they are disengaged in the process. And this young lady was one of them. One of her concerns was high prices and inflation, and that she wanted to buy a home for her child right now, and she couldn't. And she put the wrong emphasis on who was responsible. She said
Who did
the
she
government.
think?
She said the government in general is making it hard for her. She didn't say Democrat or Republican, but I think I gave her some things to talk about, and I want to talk about that and more on Chris's Corner.
Chris.
And if you don't know, now you know.
And now, Chris's Corner.
You know, at the beginning of the show, we talked about personality politics, how the Democratic Party has mastered that. Well, I've got personality politics example on overdrive, testosterone overdrive here. Tim and Joy, there's a group dubbed White Dudes for Harris will hold a Zoom call. They held a Zoom call today to rally and fundraise for Democratic nominee Kamala Harris. A spokesperson said they've raised $200,000 and tens of thousands of white men have signed up to attend this evening's virtual rally. Among them are Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg, running mate candidate North Carolina Governor Roy Cooper, Representative Adam Schiff, Josh Groban, I don't know who that is, and gun activist David Hogg. Last week, guys, Win with Black Women organized a call with 40,000 participants. That was followed by White Women Answer the Call. That was a Zoom call there, and they reportedly raised $8.5 million last Friday and had lawmakers and celebrities. So overdrive there. White Women Answer the Call. Black people for White Dudes for Harris, and Black women Win with Black Women. So yeah, that's not identity politics there, is it? One of the things, as we said early in the segment, and Jim Talent said it as well, that Kamala Harris is going to have to defend the Harris-Biden administration record and also her own record. Here's a twofer for Republicans in this. They can attack her on crime, and they can also attack her on illegal immigration. There is a victim in 2008 who is speaking out. Her skull was fractured by an undocumented worker who had been released by Harris. She is speaking out to ABC, an article in ABC. So not only does she have to defend her record, she has to defend the immigration angle of this, of they're overrunning our streets and they're killing Americans and hurting Americans. One other problem with Kamala here, and I'm sure all my Jewish friends can appreciate this, and Christians, that Father Abraham is probably rolling over in his grave when Benjamin Netanyahu was speaking to the joint session of Congress last week. Chuck Schumer turned his back on him and refused to shake his hand. I mean, even if you don't like someone's policies, common protocol, common courtesy. But Chuck Schumer is so enamored with his leadership that he's willing to turn his back on his own people, which is surprising to me because Jewish people have a reputation for being very close-knit, and there's not a lot of fractures between them. And to see this on such a high-level national stage, international stage, is shocking and surprising to me. The VP sweepstakes, Josh Shapiro's name has been bandied around. He's the young governor in Pennsylvania. But there's one problem with him, Tim, and you'll like this. He supports private school vouchers.
Oh,
yes.
Nice.
I guess that's the aspect of him that makes him a moderate. So that may be a strike against him. Mark Kelly is who people are putting the money on. The astronaut from Arizona was married to the congresswoman who was hurt at a campaign rally. So there's your update on Chris's Corner. Some speech.
Biden's people don't like Kamala Harris.
No, they don't.
Speaker stump speech.
We're gonna continue the topic today, Chris. I'm gonna talk to you about why and how Kamala is truly crazy.
Crazy. The weird is a word they're throwing around the Democrats too. And at Susie Moore, deputy managing editor at Red State at 524. You're listening to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show on 1019 94.1 News Talk STL, number one for live and local conservative talk.
Missouri has been hijacked by the crooks in Jefferson City. Career politician rhinos sell us out every chance they get. We need real conservative Bill Eigel. Eigel's plan: ban China from owning 1 inch of Missouri land, end personal property tax, and deport every single illegal immigrant in Missouri. Listen to conservative Bill Eigel.
We'll round up illegal immigrants and get rid of them, period. We'll ban Chinese ownership of our land and take back everything they stole. And we'll go by how God made us, not some stupid woke pronouns. They'll call us racist, sexist, God knows what else. And that's how we'll know we're winning.
Conservative Bill Eigel. He'll take on the woke mob, send illegals back where they came from, and stop the Jeff City crooks hijacking Missouri. Conservative Bill Eigel for governor. Believe in Life and Liberty PAC paid for and is responsible for the content of this communication. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee. www.billpac.com.
Need reliable auto service from people you can trust? Look no further than Western Tire and Auto. For over 15 years, we've been your complete automotive repair center, family owned and operated, with owner Dean Cleathermes bringing 30 years of industry experience. At Western Tire and Auto, you're not just a customer, you're family. We promise 100% satisfaction, treating you with the transparency, respect, and honesty you deserve. Visit us in St. Peters or in Florissant. For appointments, call or check westerntireauto.com. Western Tire and Auto, your local automotive experts since 2008.
In the fast-paced world of digital marketing, making connections is a challenge for any business. But what if we told you there is a place where connections aren't just made, they're grown? Meet 2060 Digital, your premier Google partner and top-tier digital agency. We don't just follow trends, we set them. At 2060 Digital, we're not just another agency, we're your strategic partner. We dive deep into your challenges and develop solutions that drive measurable outcomes. Ready to elevate your digital presence with campaigns that connect? Google 2060 Digital today.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Keith Peters reporting. The United States is cautioning Israel about escalation with the Iranian-backed Hezbollah. White House correspondent Greg Clugston reports.
The urging from U.S. officials comes as Israel weighs its response to a weekend rocket attack from Lebanon that killed 12 young people in Israel.
We absolutely condemn this weekend's horrific attack.
White House National Security spokesman John Kirby says the attack was conducted by Lebanese Hezbollah.
Despite their denials, it's their rocket. It's launched from an area that they control.
He says the U.S. backs Israel's security and continues to support efforts to reach a diplomatic solution. Greg Clugston, Washington.
North Korea's leader has health issues. Correspondent Karen Chamas reports.
North Korean officials are seeking medication for Kim's obesity-related health problems, South Korean officials have said. South Korea's spy agency told lawmakers that North Korean leader Kim Jong-un appears to have obesity-related health problems, such as high blood pressure and diabetes. It added that Kim's officials are looking for new medicines abroad to treat them. The 40-year-old Kim, known for heavy drinking and smoking, comes from a family with a history of heart problems. Both his father and grandfather, who ruled North Korea before he inherited power in 2011, died of heart issues. I'm Karen Chamas.
The FBI says former President Donald Trump has agreed to be interviewed as part of its investigation into his attempted assassination in Pennsylvania. A special agent said Monday the expected interview with the 2024 Republican presidential nominee is part of the FBI's standard protocol to speak with victims of federal crimes during investigations. On Wall Street, the Dow down by 49 points. The Nasdaq, however, rose 12. The S&P advanced 4. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Just grin and bear it or bite the bullet when it comes to everyday pain? Don't. Try Relief Factor, a drug-free daily supplement that helps your body fight pain naturally. Relief Factor doesn't just mask pain, it helps reduce or even eliminate it. It's 100% drug-free. It's developed by doctors. In 3 weeks or less, you'll know whether it works for you like it works for me. Try Relief Factor for yourself. Go to relieffactor.com or call 1-800-4RELIEF and save on your first order. That's 1-800-4-RELIEF.
What does it take for organizations to triumph? It takes trust. Trust is getting harder and harder to gain, which is why over 2,700 organizations display the ECFA seal. The ECFA seal gives your organization the third-party credibility that people are literally looking for. And in turn, an estimated 14 million givers support ECFA-accredited organizations. Let us help you maintain a trusted reputation as you reach the world for Christ. Visit ecfa.org/triumph to learn more.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. First Alert weather days have been issued due to intense heat and humidity. We'll also have to monitor for a low chance, but a chance for some strong storms to develop. Tuesday morning, we'll wake up to 80. We'll have a high of 98 with a heat index of 110. 20% chance afternoon, evening to see some storms. But again, even though it's a low chance, they could be strong if they develop. A low of 80 Wednesday morning, a high of 99, a heat index around 110 to 112 in the afternoon. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
This hour of News Talk STL brought to you by Senior Memorial. With the average funeral bill being over $9,000, are your loved ones prepared? Call 314-866-8886 or memorialplans.com. Senior Memorial Heritage Protection.
Jewels on Hampton and St. Louis Hills is paying some of the highest prices on gold, silver, diamonds, semi-precious colored stones, coins, flatware, and fine watches on site. Jewels on Hampton is a premier jeweler featuring Alvanza's jewel art designs with an exquisite selection of diamonds, semi-precious stone jewelry, and vintage watches. Their expert design team can restyle your jewelry to today's contemporary style. They also do jewelry and watch repair. Need extra cash? Jewels on Hampton is paying some of the highest prices on gold, silver, diamonds, semi-precious colored stones, coins, flatware, and fine watches. Bring in your collectibles and clocks and sports memorabilia and figurines too. Jewels on Hampton, 4506 Hampton, just 3 blocks south of Chippewa, and jewelsonhampton.com. Call them at 314-752-5000, 314-752-5000, and jewelsonhampton.com. Jewels on Hampton.
St. Louis's new choice for conservative talk.
Thank you for the opportunity to let me vent here.
Live and local.
Way to be, guys. 1019 all the way.
This is News Talk STL.
I am home.
This hour of Jones and Arps brought to you by Window World. Simply the best for less. 314-993-1800 or visit windowworld.com. Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
The more you remove voting from Election Day, the more opportunity you're offering for people to commit fraud.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
I think the Democrats are so short-sighted in this tactic they have now to just cheat at any cost to win elections.
Lying dog-faced pony soldier. You said you were, but now you got to be honest. I'm going to be honest with you.
What are we doing wrong here? As a former leader in the House, I think you can put your finger on it. It's called leadership. We don't have it.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
Kamala Harris questioned my loyalty to this country. And it's an interesting word because there is no greater sign of disloyalty to this country than what Kamala Harris has done at our southern border. I served in the United States Marine Corps. I went to Iraq for this country. I built a business for this country. And my running mate took a bullet for this country. So my question to Kamala Harris is, what the hell have you done to question our loyalty to the United States of America?
Well, if anybody thought that J.D. Vance couldn't bring the heat, he just threw a couple fastballs there. Welcome back to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show. 5:06 in the p.m. We're in the second hour of the program here today. Got a jam-packed show for you to wrap things up before we head you off to Larry Connors, Speaker Stump Speech, and Susie Moore of Red State. Chris, I thought the J.D. Vance speech at the convention was a touch understated, but it was a biographical speech because you and I, our listeners, most of our listeners probably were familiar with his name. A lot of America was not. And so the purpose of that speech, in my mind, in retrospect, was he had to introduce himself before he started throwing the heat as a vice presidential candidate. That's usually their job, right, is to be the most aggressive attack dog surrogate. I thought he brought it pretty well on Kamala Harris there.
Did it real well. Joey, do we have like a mic drop sound effect or something? After something like that, that's a mic drop.
I thought that's what you were doing. You were fumbling with the mic for a little bit there. I thought that was J.D. Vance.
Sorry about that. But, you know, speaking of J.D. Vance And, we report all the news here, so we're not totally cheerleaders or anything. There are reports in Wall Street Journal and other things that I'm reading is that, and it's probably the rhino establishment types that are getting a little nervous about JD now that Kamala Harris is the presumptive nominee. Many are saying, I want to get your thoughts on this, Tim. Many are saying that he was a good pick when it seemed it was going to be Biden and the Trump-Vance campaign was going to run away in a landslide. But because they're saying that Vance doesn't really bring anything to the ticket besides more MAGA-type voters. Now there are whispers about his nomination as vice president among some in the Republican Party. Your thoughts?
Well, I think they don't like his I think the never Trumpers in the Republican orbit don't like the fact that they thought that they were done with Trump, and basically Trump has nominated Trump Jr. to be the vice president. And what do I mean by that? Well, it's this nationalist populist kind of attitude. I say that not in a negative way. The left does. The left says that in a negative way, although there's plenty of left-wing populists as well. And I like the fact that J.D. Vance is going to continue to put America first. Now, what I would push back on that argument is that I think it all depends on who Kamala Harris picks for vice president. So I really can't give a full answer until I know who J.D. Vance is going to be going up against mano a mano, right? I think Trump can handle Kamala Harris just fine, probably more than fine. If Mark Kelly is the guy that she picks or Josh Shapiro, well, then, you've got white guy versus white guy. So they won't be able to play their identity politics. Here's what I think J.D. Vance brings. We need to win. The Republican Party needs, because it's not my job. I mean, I'll help because I am a former Republican legislator. I still vote Republican, probably almost. Well, there's no Democrats I would vote for in today's world. That's for sure. I think J.D. Vance continues to bring the left behind voter that maybe doesn't vote often or has been neglected by the Democratic Party. The blue collar folks, I think J.D. Vance will help us secure the upper Midwest, the Rust Belt, from Pennsylvania all the way over to possibly even, yes, maybe Minnesota.
And speaking of vice presidential potential nominees, Mark Kelly, the astronaut from Arizona, the Oppo research, a little bit of it has come out.
Oh, really?
Apparently, Mark Kelly had a domestic incident at his home several years ago. I think this was before he was Congress. Police were summoned to his home. So somebody within the Democratic orbit is trying to take him down a peg or two, because he was kind of among the political pundits, the leading contender.
I think he maybe was. I thought that was an interesting pick. Two very interesting. We'll see if it's him or not, but I think J.D. Vance is an interesting pick, but I think he's a good pick, and you want a good orator. And look, here's what they got in J.D. Vance. They got a younger guy, right? So the criticism from both parties over the last few years is, when is the next generation going to start getting involved? Well, J.D. Vance takes care of that. You got a guy who's got blue collar roots, pulled himself up by his bootstraps, proves the point that we want government to give hand ups, not handouts. And I think you secure a part of the demographic that you're going for, that Pennsylvania, Michigan, he seals the deal. Think about this, Chris. The Republicans have taken Ohio and most likely Florida off of the electoral map completely. 4 election cycles ago, we couldn't say that, right?
Yeah.
The battlegrounds have definitely shifted. You know what? On the other hand, Republicans probably never thought they would have such trouble with places like Arizona, and so that's become one of the newest battlegrounds, trying to put Pennsylvania back into the Republican camp. This is a wild election year. And just like we said even before Joe Biden stepped out, that nobody should take this race for granted. It's going to be extremely close. And I think our point is proven, because here's what you can't predict. You can't predict the unpredictable. We didn't know for sure if Joe Biden was going to. We thought Joe Biden might back out. We didn't know for sure. We didn't know if they would coronate Kamala Harris and that there would be new energy. Well, that's happened. Now, as you were pointing out, the bloom is starting to come off the rose, and that's going to be part of my speaker stump speech. But what everyone needs to realize is there is approximately 100 days to Election Day. We could have 25 more surprises between now and then that may benefit one side or the other. Everyone needs to understand that nothing is certain until after all the ballots are counted. Hopefully all of the legal ones.
Joy, you have another J.D. Vance mic drop clip number 3 there. JD was on a roll. Can we play that?
If there's one thing we've learned about Kamala Harris, it's that she has a hard time winning votes because she's too extreme even for the Democrat Party. Remember, in the 2020 primary, Harris dropped out months before they even cast the first vote. She was so unpopular, she polled in the low single digits among Democrats the entire campaign. She wasn't even the top 3 in her home state of California, and that is pretty embarrassing, ladies and gentlemen. And the reason is because Democrats know that the American people would never elect a San Francisco liberal who's so far outside the mainstream.
Then I want to ask you, you've been a student of politics a long time, like I have. I can remember the 1988 campaign with Dukakis and Bush. Bush destroyed Dukakis with the liberal label. I think it is what hastened Bill Clinton, the more moderate Democrat. I'm wondering, and this is not a criticism, this is an observation. I'm truly, truly wondering. I'm wondering, does the attack of calling someone a liberal, like back in 98, if you recall that, Bush called Dukakis that, it was the kiss of death. Does it have the same effect in 2024, calling her a San Francisco liberal or liberal at all? And I'm asking that, not trying to make any type of point.
I think they should change the nomenclature, yes, to leftist. I think liberal has been, I think at this point, here's why. I think Republicans will, the Democratic Party has moved so far to the left that I think Republicans would be relieved if all we had to deal with was liberals these days. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because liberals, honestly, the old school liberals, like what we think about, like the Dukakises, like the Kennedys, like in Missouri, like the Carnahans, the Holdens, those people seem rational.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I ever supported them. They seem rational when you put them side by side with AOC, Ilhan Omar, Ayanna Pressley, Cori Bush. So I think J.D. Vance and Trump, they do need to get with the times. They need to call her a leftist because that's what she is. She is a California communist leftist.
I agree. Now, my question with that, and I agree, they should call them leftists. My only concern is, people that do follow politics somewhat, don't follow it as closely as we do. Will they equate leftists with communism and say, oh, that is so hyperbole leftist? They're not leftists. They may be a little left of center where you are, but leftist, that's too much. And they equate leftists with communists.
So here's what they have to do. Yes, that's a great question. And as Al Pacino said in the very famous movie, Joey, what was he in with where he was
I want to quote Heat so bad, but I don't know which one.
No, I'm not going to do Heat. I'm going to do, what was the one, and I'll do it in his voice in a second, where he said, I'm just getting warmed up.
Oh, is that Any Given Sunday?
And he was in the courtroom scene. And he was in the courtroom scene, and he was on trial for something, or he got dragged into a trial or something. He might have been. And at one point in the courtroom scene, the judge is basically saying, Mr. So-and-so, you need to calm down. You need to quiet down. And he goes, I'm just getting warmed up.
That's a Kiss of a Woman.
Scent of a Woman.
Excuse me. That was a great movie.
Yeah, great movie.
Great movie.
So what I think is, J.D. Vance and Trump are just getting warmed up because, Chris, they didn't know they were starting to get, look, they knew this was coming. You could tell at the convention. These are smart people. Republicans have smart operatives. Democrats do too. The Democrats are the insane party and Republicans are the stupid party, but they both have a lot of smart people working, very cunning. They knew this was coming. So, however, they've been campaigning against Biden for a year or two now.
2 years.
And so you got to turn the Titanic a little bit and you got to get everybody on the same page. I think they'll eventually, yes, to answer your question directly, they got to give examples. You can't just give the Democrats do that all the time. And then you can disprove their points. You can utter the hyperbole and the exclamations, then you have to give the examples. And guess what? I actually have a ton of them in today's Speaker Stump speech, which is a perfect segue.
What a
Chris.
segue. That was very professional. Very professional.
That we will now deliver to you now and next.
Listen to me, listen to me.
I'm very consistent. I'm a very stable genius.
It's time for the Speaker Stump Speech, sponsored by Hanson's Tree Service at hansonstree.com.
Yes, to answer Chris's question, which I will in a second in the Speaker Stump Speech, but first I want to thank Chad Hanson and the good folks at Hanson's Tree Service. To answer Chris's question, yes, you can't just throw out the hyperbole because voters want to know more, because they can do their research. Voters can do their research today like nobody's business. My inbox, and I'm sure Chris's as well, is being flooded with the turning of the Titanic and with all of the reasons why Kamala Harris is a leftist communist. Now, back in the day, when we would throw that moniker around, we would say, oh, you Democrats are commies. A lot of times we were just being hyperbolic. They were just, like I said, old school liberals. Now, when we say that, I think we really mean it because they have gone so far to the left. Here's a couple great pieces I want to deliver to you today. First, the National Review. They asked over the weekend, and this is a great question. They asked the Democrats to be introspective, which I don't know if they have the ability to do that. The headline was, have Democrats thought this through? Have Democrats thought this through? So, right, there's all this excitement. There's all this energy. She did all this fundraising. But as Chris pointed out in Chris's corner, maybe the bloom is coming off the rose a little quickly here, maybe more quickly than they thought. Maybe the honeymoon is not going to last. See, Democrats were hoping that this honeymoon for Kamala Harris, everybody would just be so infatuated. Oh, how wonderful. She's the first XYZ ABC woman. I'm glad they've discovered what a woman is again, because I do believe Kamala Harris is a biological woman. I'm not going to spread any conspiracy theories. So, okay, they were hoping that all of that identity politics was going to be enough to erase in people's minds the last 3.5 years of the house of pain that we've been living in. I probably just gave Joey a song idea. They were hoping that the idea of the first blah, 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 first blah, 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 how exciting. Thank God she's not Joe Biden. She can actually utter words. Maybe they don't always make sense, but, rah, rah, sis, boom, bah. They were hoping that that would last. Look, I think if the election were next week, maybe it would, and maybe we'd have something to worry about here. But Kamala Harris, who has been a disaster, an utter disaster, a word salad disaster, a Venn diagram disaster, an electric school bus disaster, Russia is a big country next to the little country of Ukraine disaster, border crisis disaster for 3.5 years. So, yes, Republicans have plenty of time to remind the American people of all of those examples. So, National Review says, Democrats, maybe you should have thought this through. There's the well-oiled Democratic machine, the article says, we've come to know, exerting influence on par with the Lord Almighty's to toss President Biden from the race. They briskly swapped him for Kamala Harris as one might an idol for a bag of sand. A unified party will fet her, as Republicans did Donald Trump in Chicago next month before sending off the Veep and a yet-to-be-named running mate to vanquish the new oldest person in the race. Unless, and it's a big unless, the hastily formed plan of the Democrats doesn't hold up nearly as well as its architects think. You often hear that phrase, well, that didn't age well. Will we be saying that about Kamala Harris a week, maybe 2 weeks, maybe even 3 weeks from now? We've got plenty of time till the election to point out all of her faults and failings as Joe Biden's number 2, because as we talked about with Jim Talent, he confirmed for us that, yes, everybody should assign all of Biden's failures to her. It shouldn't just be flipping out the messenger and saying, well, the message is just fine and always has been. No, it's not. In fact, I've argued for the last many months, I don't care if you get Joe Biden, I don't care if you get rid of Joe Biden or not. It's not Joe Biden, the decrepit old man, that's the problem. Well, that's one of the problems. It's the policies. Of course, the National Review goes on to say the party would be much better positioned today if an untold number of aides, campaign officials, senior administration officials hadn't covered up the president's condition and Kamala Harris so that a competitive primary process could have produced a road-tested and broadly popular nominee. Chris and I told you about a bunch of them last week, all of whom I would have been much more worried about than Kamala Harris. The Democrats are instead playing the bad hand that, guess what? They dealt themselves. One must squint to see what they're doing differently besides, quote, find and replace for Biden and Harris in the campaign literature. Harris for president, like Biden for president, is still hammering Project 2025, something most people don't care about, trying to make a boogeyman out of this think tank project, and so on and so on and so forth. The strategy feels very online. It does. It feels very Twitter land, where like nobody but us weirdos, focus on it 24/7. Geared towards partisan news-consuming coastal voters. The progressive version, they argue, of what DeSantis did. Instead of Chevron deference and woke banking, they're talking about the Comstock Act and Schedule F. Is that more effective than reminding people over and over again about January 6th? Yeah. Why aren't the Democrats under Kamala Harris just sticking with their tried and true playbook of stripping your reproductive justice rights, which don't exist, and Yes, saving democracy. Kamala Harris's other liabilities will be treated as a buffet upon which Republican ad makers can feast, and I hope they tell the whole tale. Time will tell whether her elevation to presumptive nominee, favorable media treatment, and the convention itself can boost her image and convince wavering Democratic voters. But her polling at this point, as Chris pointed out earlier, is not that encouraging if you dig down into the crosstabs, despite a little bit of a post-Biden bump. By the way, her problems don't end there. From National Review's editorial page, undoubtedly Harris will fare better than a moribund octogenarian, but that does not make her George Washington, as Democrats keep seeming to argue. On the contrary, this is my point, she's still a representative of the most unpopular administration in modern history. She is still more disliked than any vice president since polling began, and she is still, here's the detail, a California progressive whose voting record in the Senate was documented to be to the left of Bernie Sanders when it comes to defund the police, when it comes to open borders, when it comes on weakness on the world stage. Those are the things you have to mention in addition to just pejoratively calling her a leftist communist Marxist, which she also is indeed. We got to dig in to the devil that's in the details. That's how you'll beat Kamala Harris, not just on personality conflicts, but on public policy details indeed. And that's the stump speech for today.
And I'm sure the Trump campaign also is going to continually remind voters with this coronation that Kamala Harris didn't even make it to the Iowa caucus in the 2020 election. And you remember, Tim, for a while there, she had problem keeping high-level top staff.
Yes.
People were leaving in droves. Now, I don't know if this information was verified. It was on Twitter, so it's suspect. But this person supposedly had information that said when Kamala Harris was the AG of California, that lower-level staffers weren't allowed to look her in the eye, and they had to address her in the morning as Madam General. Now, I could see that happening. I don't know. Maybe this was verified. I don't know. But Kamala's got some hairs, has some problems. And as you say, I think the bloom on that rose is going to come off quickly. And I'm the biggest Uncle Tom in the world for saying that, because I'm not on board. I'm not with her, as the Facebook memes are saying.
Well, there's plenty of people that share your opinion as well. Folks, let's find out what the opinion is of Susie Moore on this big bait and switch. What does Susie Moore think the position should be as to Kamala Harris? Red State has a ton of articles on that. Susie's got some great content as well. She'll be joining Chris and I next to boil all of that down and break it down indeed. The Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show here at 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL.
Watch us on our live stream using Rumble, Facebook, and Twitter.
She got a great ass, and you got your head all the way up it.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. First Alert weather days have been issued due to intense heat and humidity. We'll also have to monitor for a low chance, but a chance for some strong storms to develop. Tuesday morning, we'll wake up to 80. We'll have a high of 98 with a heat index of 110. 20% chance afternoon, evening to see some storms. But again, even though it's a low chance, they could be strong if they develop. A low of 80 Wednesday morning, a high of 99, a heat index around 110 to 112 in the afternoon. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
Free speech is alive and well in America.
Thanks for taking my call.
Right here.
My point about the governor there, it's absolutely about power.
I read this, I almost fell out of my chair.
News Talk STL.
This thing is just absolutely dripping with iron.
News, analysis, opinion.
Well, I overdid it over the last 3 weeks. Lots of travel. Chris and I were just talking about this. Lots of sleeping in weird beds. We were in different beds. Don't worry about it. But we were in hotels. We were in different cities. Chris was down running around with the in-laws or the family in Texas. We were on planes, trains, and automobiles. And then I got home and I tried to do everything over the last 3 weeks in one day. So I played a little golf in the morning, then came home and was, throwing around the weed eaters and the machines and all that. I woke up this morning. I could hardly move. Thank goodness I had an appointment with the comprehensive chiropractor. This is a true story, folks. I was like, my right side, I was like, what the heck happened? And so I went into comprehensive chiropractic and I told Dr. Fader and the staff what happened. And they're like, yep. They knew exactly what I was talking about because they're human beings too. And, they have bodies and they know the human body so well. And did a lot of work on it was mainly the right side because that's where I was putting all the stress and the stress and strain on. And I feel so much better. So I had a bunch of hip pain, kind of the upper ball socket, and then shoulder as well, because that's where I was putting all the stress on over the last few weeks. Carrying stuff, right? Carrying everything on the right side. I just felt like a kilter, like, eh. So they straightened me up. They fixed me up. I'm good as new, and I will continue to go there because I've been doing it for almost 20 years, and Doctors Fader, Patton, and the others are so wonderful. So my point is, if you have day-to-day aches and pains or more chronic situations, Comprehensive Chiropractic is your one-stop shop. Located in my beautiful hometown of Eureka, they service the entire region. Let me tell you, because they are the premier chiropractic and sports performance facility in our region, people come from all over, and they're so thankful they did. Now, I want to talk to you folks who have people in your families or maybe yourselves who have more serious injuries or illnesses. Peripheral neuropathy is horrible. It affects the extremities. And you know what I'm talking about, right? And it's really debilitating. Dr. Kim Patton and her team have continued to develop the Restore Neuropathy program, 95% success rate, improving neuropathy symptoms, 60 to 100%. Holistic, as you can tell, holistic, comprehensive healthcare. That's what you're going to get at Comprehensive Chiropractic. CIH.health, cchiropractic.com. Just go to your search engine, type in Comprehensive Chiropractic Eureka. You'll find it. Tell them we sent you, and you'll be oh so happy. Comprehensive Chiropractic for all your comprehensive healthcare needs.
Connor Roofing. You can count on Connor. Congratulations to the awesome team at Connor Roofing for earning the 2024 National Best of the Best Award for Customer Satisfaction. Connor Roofing has now won back-to-back honors because they do outstanding work in all types of roofing, storm damage restoration, siding, gutters, both residential and commercial. We chose Connor Roofing without telling the owners, Rob and Kathy Connor. Their customer reviews are some of the best in the country. Please read them. Visit ConnorRoofing.com and request an estimate. Connor Roofing. You can count on Connor.
Looking to get a new carpet, hardwood, or tile installed quickly and efficiently in your home? Look no further than Michael's Flooring Outlet. Michael's Flooring Outlet is a family-owned and operated business with a 30-year history of offering a diverse array of high-quality options in flooring. My parents and in-laws used Michael's to rip up their old carpet and replace it. They are both happy with the product and installation from Michael's. You can shop at one of their 3 locations in Creve Coeur, Darting Prairie, or St. Peter's, or you can check them out at igotfloored.com. That's igotfloored.com.
Are you tired of establishment politics? Meet Adam Schnelting, your true conservative choice for state senate. Adam Schnelting, husband, father, soldier, and member of the House Freedom Caucus. Adam authored the legislation that ended abortion in Missouri and is the grassroots candidate Jefferson City fears. Unlike his opponent Phil Cristofanelli, who's backed by lobbyists and Democrats, Adam's support comes from right here in St. Charles County. It's time for real conservative leadership. Vote Adam Schnelting for state senate.
Paid for by Leadership for America PAC. John Royal, Treasurer.
Hey, Tony Colombo here for Gutter Pros. When Christine and I bought our new house, we knew the gutters were an issue, and after meeting the Gutter Pros team, we knew that they were right for us. Gutter Pros is your all-in-one gutter service team that offers a variety of affordable solutions, and they even offer free estimates, so there's no cost to you to find out if they are right for your home, just like they were for ours. If you're having a problem with your gutters, contact the Gutter Pros now, because with Gutter Pros, water goes where they tell it to. Call them at 314-656-7195 or visit gutterpros.com.
This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com. Follow Tim Jones on Twitter at Speaker Tim Jones.
President Joe Biden has unveiled a long-awaited proposal for changes to the U.S. Supreme Court. A White House official saying he will call for a constitutional amendment stripping the president of immunity for crimes while in office. Biden is also moving to install term limits for justices, as well as a binding code of conduct. But Biden's proposals have little chance of succeeding. The constitutional amendment is a long and complicated process, and the other reforms would require congressional approval, which would be difficult to achieve before his term ends.
There you go. Joe Biden trying to go out with another big bang of another horrible, terrible, really bad idea, Chris. And I think we should bring in our next guest and ask her what she thinks about that and more.
Oh, Susie Q, baby, I love you. Susie Q.
I'm the boss. How about that?
Well, Susie, might as well destroy another great American institution, right, on your way out the door with this a further attack on the Supreme Court.
Yeah, why not? I mean, you're taking everything else down. Might as well take it too.
And what's interesting too, Susie, is this was creeping up as a issue in the 2020 campaign, and he was walking away from this. It's like, oh, maybe it's something we want to study. It was something that he was not wholeheartedly embracing because he knew it was not going to be a popular issue at that time. And I find it curious that now that he's stepping aside, he is embracing this, and now he's the Supreme Court reformer.
Well, keep in mind that was before Dobbs. That was before several decisions by the Supreme Court that are highly unpopular among the left. For instance, Chevron dialing that back, the regulatory state, and of course the Trump immunity case. So part of it is, trying to appease the left part of his base. We all know from a practical standpoint, he isn't going to get that accomplished because it's a heavy lift to begin with, and it's certainly a heavy lift for the lamest of lame ducks.
Yeah.
But then on top of that, the real reason behind it is to give them that talking point for the election.
Susie, why are these proposed, quote, reforms so ill-informed and so bad for the institution of the Supreme Court?
Because they're designed to appeal to people's emotions, to the left's emotions. That first of all, in rolling these out, he just told falsehood after falsehood. But that's what we do. That's what we get from this administration and from the left media that covers for them, and that is they misconstrue, they mischaracterize what the decisions are and what they mean, and then they get their base all worked up over them. I'm not saying it never happens on the right. I'm just saying it's definitely happening on the left, and so then that gins up the support. It's all about votes.
Susie, talk about the ruling last week about Donald Trump's lawsuit against ABC News and George Stephanopoulos could continue. He was suing because during a March 10th airing of This Week, Stephanopoulos said he raped E. Jean Carroll, which of course was not true. Your thoughts on that lawsuit being able to continue?
Yeah, well, I mean, Stephanopoulos really stepped in it, and he should have known better as the veteran journalist and Politico that he is, because there was a very specific finding in that civil lawsuit, and it was not that he was guilty of or liable for raping her. Now, some might say it's a fine distinction. He was still found liable for sexual abuse, but he was not found liable for rape. And again, it was a civil
and there's a term
decision.
that they're using too, and I can't think of what it is. It'll come to me after you're off. But to get around that rape thing, they're saying something else, some term that makes it seem like he was convicted of rape. But I forgot the term.
Sexual abuse.
No, it's something else that they've been using to get around it.
Well,
It'll come.
The verdict was that he was liable for sexual abuse, and Stephanopoulos erroneously referred to it as rape, and I don't think he said, I can't remember if he said convicted of, but bottom line is that is actually defamation per se. I mean, you just basically accuse somebody of rape that they've not been found responsible for or guilty of. And so the ruling, as I understand it, was basically, when you file a defamation suit like this, the other side, the defendant, is going to move to dismiss the case and say it doesn't meet the bar of what you need to proceed with the lawsuit. The court found, no, this meets the bar. Now, this doesn't mean that for sure he's going to win it. It just means that from a pleading standpoint, Trump and his legal team have laid out what you need to do to meet the prerequisites to proceed with the lawsuit.
Does it sound, maybe this is the word, found adjudicated of rape? They've been using some word like that.
Maybe, but I mean, so I guess they're trying to get around the fact that it was a civil case, not a criminal case.
Is that, yeah, because I know they're using something.
There was a determination in a court. It wasn't a criminal case. It was a civil case.
That's
so
the
maybe
term,
they're trying, again, they're trying to give it more import.
Okay.
But the bottom line, and of course, those cases are up on appeal too. The bottom line is that, I don't blame Trump one bit for suing on this. I mean, think about all the stuff that is said about Donald Trump. I mean, but he is also a public figure, a very public figure. So he's got a super high bar to hurdle to successfully bring a case like this. This might actually do it.
New York versus United States. Susie, redstate.com is a great article, and I'm not going to ask you the specifics unless you did edit it, but I want to ask you about the import of the title, and I agree 100% with this, and this is what we've been focusing on here today. Your colleague Jim Thompson wrote this piece about Kamala Harris, and he says, the focus must be on Harris, her ruinous policy positions, and her lying about Biden's cognitive decline. Susie, despite the fact the Democrats are trying to convince all of us that Kamala Harris never served in the Biden administration, despite being the vice president, she owns all of this. And the Republicans' job is to make sure Americans know that she was Joe Biden's, she was his right-hand woman, right? And she never differentiated herself from anything in Biden land.
Well, no, that's correct. I did not edit that piece, but I know the premise underlying it, and you're nailing it. Basically, the bottom line is, there's all different kinds of attacks that you could levy against Kamala Harris, but if you just focus on the personal and maybe the low hanging fruit, if you will, then you're missing the bigger opportunity, and that is set aside whatever you want to say about her past, or oh, she's a woman, or whatever you can be that could be attributed to racism or sexism or whatever. From a policy standpoint, she is a horrible candidate, and up until basically 30 seconds ago, even most Democrats thought that. So that's what you have to keep focusing on. That's what the Republicans should do to make their case.
Susie, Michigan became the 20th state to outlaw panic defenses when it comes to transgender cases. I guess this law is needed. I find it really hard to believe that, Your Honor, I killed this person because I just panicked because I thought she was a woman and she wasn't, and I killed them. I panicked. I mean, I guess people were using that excuse and getting lesser sentences. I just find that hard to believe and see this as more of a political thing than this actually happening. But I haven't done the research on it, so I don't know. But it just seems a little suspect to me.
It strikes me as a solution in search of a problem.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, I didn't know this was a thing until I happened to see I saw a headline. I didn't even dig into it past that.
I didn't either.
I really don't have a strong opinion about it because, like you, I haven't done the research on it. I don't know what the stats are as to how many people have really gone to that well, and why this was necessary. But it seems to me like it's designed to say, look, we're standing up for the LGBTQ community because of all of the heinous crimes committed against them.
Susie, there is a piece that you are familiar with because you wrote it at redstate.com. And it's something that I haven't heard much about because there's been so much news. But one of the problems that's going to continue to haunt the remaining days of the Biden administration and could, I guess, indirectly affect Kamala Harris negatively is Hunter Biden. And you have a new piece up at redstate.com. In Artful Dodger, Hunter Biden's lawyers explain why they shouldn't be sanctioned in California tax case. Susie, do tell what's going on there.
Yeah, Hunter is the gift that keeps on giving.
He sure is.
So, he was already convicted in Delaware on the gun charges. There's the pending tax case against him that's set to go to trial in September in California. In that case, his lawyers filed a new motion to dismiss the charges against him, basically trying to piggyback off of what Eileen Cannon did in Trump's case in Florida and say the special counsel wasn't properly appointed. And they said, well, if Eileen Cannon said that, you should consider that too. So it's kind of like the other side of the coin from a political standpoint. So that they filed the motion, but when they filed the motion, they asserted that David Weiss, the special counsel, brought no charges against Hunter Biden before he was appointed as special counsel, which is false. As the U.S. Attorney of Delaware, Weiss had filed charges against Hunter. Now they were getting ready. They were getting ready to deal with that in a plea agreement that all blew up last July, but those charges had been filed. So the judge on his own, sua sponte, issued an order late last week and said, hey, you guys are lying. You have false statements in your motion. You got 7 days to show cause as to why I shouldn't sanction you. So then Sunday night, the attorneys for Hunter, which, by the way, Mark Garagos has taken over as the lead. Abby Lowell is still on the case, but Mark Garagos is now the new lead attorney on the case. And I don't know how much that had to do with this, this new tack that they're taking. But their response was basically, what we were saying in context was that there were no actual indictments brought against him. And clearly we weren't referring to the charges that were brought against him by Weiss as the U.S. attorney. It was our inartful use of language. It basically threw it back on the court and said, you misunderstood our what we meant.
Oh, like typically. No accountability.
I don't know about you, Tim, but as an attorney, if I had a court basically threatening to sanction me, I don't think my response would be to say, I think you're reading that wrong, Judge. I think you've misunderstood. And we were inartful. I think I would be saying, I'm so sorry. That was completely our oversight. Let's clean this up right away. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this federal judge responds to their basically saying, it's kind of your fault. We're sorry you took it that way.
For sure.
Susie, our good friend Becky Noble, who is local here in St. Louis, wrote an article about, and I didn't know this, XY chromosome boxers will be competing as women. I thought the Olympic Committee released a statement a few months ago saying that transgenders weren't going to be allowed in the Olympics. And I want to get your thoughts on the international controversy that's happening in the Olympics. I mentioned it about the athletes refusing to shake the Israelis' hand in a judo match.
Okay, so as to Becky's article, which I did not edit that one either, but my understanding is that the IOC basically said, we're going to let each sport, the governing body of each sport, define who can and can't compete. In the boxing context, the boxing world has not ruled out people possessing an XY chromosome, i.e. males, from competing in female competitions or women's competitions. So that's why you've got that going on for those who are really dying to see males boxing females.
Speaking of, keep that thought though. I saw something the other day. Now they've got these matches where it's like two women against one guy in a cage doing MMA.
Well, that sounds like a different kind of.
But they're fighting, but it's like he's fighting them, and it's like, seriously, come on. But anyway, I'm sorry, I digress.
I mean, I guess it's a circus. I don't know.
Yes.
I don't know.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, and I haven't seen the controversy over the handshakes, but that doesn't surprise me. I mean, there's already been, it's kind of a tense situation at the Olympics because you have this ongoing conflict. You have what happened October 7th, and you have the Israeli athletes basically having to be given extra protection because of the threats that they're facing. And, there's no shortage of people out there who have very negative feelings about Israel and about the Jewish people. And so we're seeing that manifest in the Olympics, which is like, I don't know. I mean, it's all bad, but I mean, that's like extra bad to me.
And I guess I got to go back here and I guess to make it fair, it's like a middle-aged man because it was like a balding man, and he's fighting like two women that are like in their 20s. I guess that makes it fair.
You're sure this is legit fighting? It's not like Jello wrestling or some like.
No, this is legit MMA. It's a middle-aged man against two 20-year-old women. And
would you pay to see it?
He is beating them like men. He is not relenting at all on them.
I have no interest in seeing that
Tim,
whatsoever.
I'm sorry. I just digressed on that.
Chris went down a rabbit trail.
That's some Russian fight video stuff right there.
Hey, it's on Facebook, so it's real.
Must be.
Don't give Dana Young any ideas. Susie, before we let you go, we got a big election here next Tuesday night in Missouri. A bunch of other states have primaries as well. Will Red State, I know you're going to be probably joining us for some of our election night coverage anchored by Tony Colombo. Will Red State will they be looking at the Missouri races? And is that a resource people should go to?
I'm sure Becky and I, maybe a couple other people will probably have some articles up about it. We won't do like a live blog of the results or whatever, but we'll have a live thread that will have the results coming in.
Excellent.
So that'll be a good place to check for the up-to-date results as they come in. And, I think that the focus of what Red State's going to be looking at more than anything, to be honest, is Congressional District 1.
Yes, with Cori Bush.
And
versus
Wesley
Bell. Yes.
Yeah, because the rest of it, they know it's all going to be Republicans. So, but we'll definitely be covering it.
Okay, very good. Susie, thanks for doing a little extra double duty here today with us, as well as Colombo and Company. Thanks for being here. You can find Susie at SmoozyQ on Twitter and redstate.com. We'll talk to you soon.
Yeah.
We will indeed. Yes. All right. Hey, can you believe it? Wow, that was fast. Thank goodness. Manic Monday, indeed. Chris and I will be back with Joey for one final jam-packed segment. We will tell you everything at least the topics that Larry Connors USA will be covering beginning at 6:05 and more when we return the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. 1019 94.1 News Talk STL.
Dropping truth bombs and making you think. It's the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show.
She was a bum 3 weeks ago. She was a bum.
From the Michael's Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. First Alert weather days have been issued due to intense heat and humidity. We'll also have to monitor for a low chance, but a chance for some strong storms to develop. Tuesday morning, we'll wake up to 80. We'll have a high of 98 with a heat index of 110. 20% chance afternoon, evening to see some storms. But again, even though it's a low chance, it could be strong if they develop. A low of 80 Wednesday morning, a high of 99, a heat index around 110 to 112 in the afternoon. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
The Vic Borselli Show.
Founder of True the Vote, Kathy Engelbrecht, will join us at 9:41 on Tuesday. And special attraction, Ask Alexa Part 2, all coming up on Tuesday.
Weekday mornings at 9 on News Talk STL.
For over 2 decades, Joe Brazel has served St. Charles County with passion and dedication. As your county councilman, Joe has championed smart growth with Proposition S, protected our veterans by stopping military funeral protests, stood against excessive high-density housing, and supported the 2030 Master Plan for controlled infrastructure. Joe Brazel, a true patriot working for you.
I'm Joe Brazel, running for St. Charles County Council, District 2, vote August 6th.
Paid for by Citizens for Joe Brazel, Mike Summers, Treasurer.
Southern Armory, your hometown gun store. Come and be more than just a customer. Southern Armory, we carry the best guns, holsters, knives, magazines, ammunition, and even food storage. Special orders are welcome. Southern Armory, 1 mile east of 270 and 44, 9901 Watson Road, and southernarmory.com. That's southernarmory.com.
Whether you're purchasing your first firearm or adding to your collection at Southern Armory, you're more than a customer, you're part of the family. Follow Southern Armory on Facebook or at southernarmory.com.
Oh, Adam, you are so romantic. And I love the kitchen you found with all these great crumbs.
Yeah, baby, only the finest crumbs in the kitchen for my favorite aunt. Oh no, it's the pest control company again with those green wheels. They always kill the mood.
This is Derek, the owner of All Solutions Pest Control. Give us a call today at 636-486-7888. We'd love to help you out. Learn more about our special $67 offer. You can visit us online at allsolutionspestcontrol.com.
If a pest-free home is your goal, call All Solutions Pest Control.
By now, you've heard Adam Schnelting's false attack ads. Don't buy his lies. Adam Schnelting says he opposes the transgender agenda, but he's trying to conceal the truth. Schnelting has received more than $71,000 from liberal trial lawyers. Those same trial lawyers supporting Schnelting also gave over $100,000 to a liberal group that supports men playing girls' sports, supports men using girls' bathrooms, and even supports gender mutilation surgeries for minors. To make matters worse, Adam Schnelting says he supports our gun rights, but he's received thousands from leading anti-gun lawyers that filed a massive lawsuit against gun makers and gun owners. But that's not all. These liberal lawyers don't just fund Adam Schnelting's campaign, their anti-gun lawsuits, or the transgender movement. They've also been leading funders of Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, and even the Joe Biden-Kamala Harris ticket. Adam Schnelting. With friends like that, conservatives just can't trust him. On August 6th, don't forget Adam Schnelting. He's loved by liberals, and he lies like one too.
Gladius PAC is responsible for the content of this advertising, paid for by Gladius PAC, and is not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
Attention thrill seekers and fun lovers. Did you know the Midwest's largest wooden roller rink is right here in Missouri? Welcome to Piccadilly Palace, your ultimate family entertainment destination. Glide across our massive skating floor, conquer arcade challenges, put your way through mini golf, and dive into cutting-edge virtual reality experiences. And coming soon, a relaxing bar and grill patio, state-of-the-art golf simulators, and heart-pounding 2-story go-kart racing next to East Central College in Union, Missouri. Plan your visit now at PiccadillyPalace.com. That's PiccadillyPalace.com.
This hour of Jones and Arps brought to you by Window World. Simply the best for less. 314-993-1800 or visit windowworld.com. Watch us on our live stream using Rumble, Facebook, and Twitter.
Walking down the street, watching ladies go by, watching you.
She was a bum 3 weeks ago. She was a bum. A failed vice president in a failed administration with millions of people crossing, and she was the border czar. Now they're trying to say she never was the border czar. She had nothing to do with the border. She was the border czar. They were explaining to me, you can say Kamala, you can say Kamala. I said, don't worry about it. It doesn't matter what I say. I couldn't care less if I mispronounce it or not. I couldn't care less. Some people think I mispronounce it on purpose, but actually I've heard it said about 7 different ways. There are a lot of ways. There are a lot of ways.
5:52 on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show. And Tim, I think that is a classic example of what many handlers of Donald Trump have said in the past to people that criticize his speeches sometimes, let Trump be Trump. I think that is a let Trump be Trump moment there.
Well, because doesn't a lot of times he says the things that we're thinking, and maybe we're like, oh, someone's going to be mad at me if I say this, or
I
someone's
don't know
gonna...
if I'd call Kamala a bum, but I would say
Well,
there.
no, the whole thing about her name, Chris.
Yes, that I agree with.
How do you does
I never say it right. I say because I'm used to the rest of Kamala. That's what I call her.
How does she say it? Do we even know how does she say
It's
it?
like Angela Kamala, but I say Kamala, excuse me, like the rest of them.
Kamala.
But it's supposed to be like Angela Kamala.
Angela Kamala. Okay.
Kamala is close to Kamala.
I think when I don't call her a bum, but like the whole thing about her name, you can't get mad at him for saying her name different ways because everybody says her names different ways.
That is correct. And it reminds me of the old book that I read many, many years ago, though, from Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Yes.
One of the things that he stressed in that book is always pronounce a person's name correctly because it is the sweetest sound to their ear. That's a direct quote from that book. So I would admonish the president, or I would caution the president with some of the nicknames for a female candidate. We don't want to play identity politics. We shouldn't have to take the gloves off. She's running for the presidency of the United States, the most difficult office in the world, but I'm just worried about some of the language.
Hammer her on her crappy policies. Call her crappy Kamala because she's got bad policy positions. I mean, you could sit there and talk for an hour about what a radical she is because of A, B, C, D, E. You go through the whole alphabet, right? She was radical as a prosecutor. She supports radical positions on spending, on foreign policy, on defunding the police, on the border. I mean, look, that's all you need to do. Chris, you wanted me to remind you, a lot of folks are commenting on our live stream today. We have Jason Hetty there. Chris, he had a great idea. White guys for black guys for Trump. Who's with me, Jason
I love
says.
that. I love that. And I answered earlier that I'd like that idea very, very much.
I guess
we can
should
play the identity,
Yeah.
the racial identity politics game. Why not?
Let's do it. We also got Amy there. She's back from Seattle. She
Hi,
says it was
Amy.
beautiful to visit, but she's glad to be back
Sunshine.
in the loo. Linda's on there. And then, of course, Chris and I commenting as well. Joey monitors a lot of this stuff during the show. So please join us on Facebook, Rumble, YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram. One of us will get back to you. We do see all your comments. We appreciate you. Share all those platforms as well. We love the fact that our digital listenership, as well as the FM transmitter signals, it continues to escalate every single month, every single year. Thank you.
Exactly. You know, now that Joe Biden is bowed out of the presidential race, there's not as much attention on his performance as president or his spokesperson, Karine Jean-Pierre, KJP, as they say. But I found this article a couple weeks ago, and I thought it was very ironic. Did you guys know that she cut her political chops on the John Edwards campaign back in 2008?
I didn't know that.
She wrote an essay for Salon in 2020 about that experience, and it was what it was like working for, quote, a doomed presidential candidate. It's like it kept going back and forth. She's speaking of her experience on John Edwards' failed campaign. She said this, quote, Edwards and his message. See if this sounds familiar to you.
Okay.
Edwards and his message were not connecting with voters. The polls showed it. The commentators were noting it, and my gut told me, in no uncertain terms, there's nothing more dispiriting than working on a dying campaign. The atmosphere resembles one of those sad birthday balloons with the air slowly seeping out of it as it deflates. You show up at the office, you're pumped, you attack the phones, you deliberately pep up in your voice. Everything is going great. We would blatantly lie to the movers and shakers we were calling, but the more we tried, the less it helped. No, that's not the Joe Biden campaign, as I said. That is the doomed John Edwards campaign from 2008. What bad luck to be on two campaigns like that in your career.
You could use that
presidential
quote.
campaigns.
You could use that quote for either one.
That's Joe Biden.
Completely interchangeable. Yeah. You know, I think KJP will be okay. Chris, she's probably already got that contract with MSNBC in the works.
Well, I remember told you they were trying to get rid of her earlier, last year, and they had offered her the job to Emily's List, president, and it's paid like $275,000 a year. But I guess she was principled and said, "You're not going to run me out of here. I'm the first black, gay, lesbian, Haitian Did I miss anything?
I think you got it all.
Press secretary, and they couldn't make her an offer. She couldn't refuse. Larry Connors is up next from 6 to 8 p.m. Larry, I'm sure, is going to be talking about the Olympics, the attacks by Hezbollah on Israel, and all of the big geopolitical national issues. Been a great show. Thank you guys for listening. You've been listening to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show on 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL, number one for live and local conservative talk. Drive safe.
Hey, it's Vic. Are you worried about rising taxes? Well, you're not alone. With government spending outpacing revenue, many Americans fear a tax hike is on the horizon. But here's the good news. You have options. Chris Cooper of Serenity Wealth Management specializes in tax-efficient strategies for income planning, legacy, and growth. Chris knows your money will go to one of three places: the government, healthcare, or your family and charities. Shouldn't your loved ones come first? Don't let Uncle Sam be your biggest beneficiary. Take control of your financial future today. Visit SerenityNowTax.com for your free copy of Chris's book, The New Holistic Retirement. Serenity Wealth Management, because you deserve peace of mind in retirement. Request your free book today at SerenityNowTax.com. That's SerenityNowTax.